think about it as saying that one thing is a consequence of another,
Mhm.
or sometimes that one thing is a manner in which another thing happens.
Yeah. So, like,
Literally mean an overthrowing of like a political order or an armed revolt,
mm,
or it could just mean a rejection. So in this case, it's not artists literally taking up arms against each other, although some of them might have wanted to. It's just rejecting the dominant approaches in favor of something else. Yeah. And we would say it's a forceful rejection. They're not rejecting it subtly. It's not, they're rejecting it very deliberately and explicitly.
mhm. Okay.
Mm.
But
On what art is.
for what art is, what
Yeah.
would be?
Um, I think because um, we're not talking about a shared future that's under negotiation, like what the program of works
Mhm.
would be. We're talking about a norm. We're
Oh,
talking about
before.
a set of expectations about what it should be, what it needs to be, what the norms are that they have in common. This is what traditional views of what art, um, of how art should be understood, must be understood, we might say. Um,
But
yeah, so
but
yeah, but it's not a, it's a, it's normative ideas in general about art rather than a specific program for future art. So it's what principles guide the future work rather than about what decisions would be made in future.
so
Better, you could say it would be better if,
mm,
um,
it
or
would
you
be
could
better.
say that they're revolting against traditional views on um,
Working
it,
hours
on what working hours should be. It has to be should be.
should be. Okay, I
They're
got it.
rejecting a norm rather than a program, or on what the working hours would be, might be. But it
Amazing. Yeah, I got
it's
it.
strange because it wouldn't be a revolt. It would be a
Revolt means
negotiation.
okay.
It's about
I got it.
norms and principles.
So revolt
Yeah.
is with force,
Yeah,
actually,
it's more
like a
forceful.
revolution
Yeah.
and stuff. Okay,
It might
revolted.
not might not be literal force.
Mm.
It might be
Some pressure,
it
politics.
might or it might be like, forceful language.
Mm. Okay, right.
It would have to be relevant to their lives.
So we don't have
Um,
relative in English.
or it would have to be relevant, any relevance to their lives, in fact, did not have any relevance to or anything to do with. It can't be anything relevant in their lives. Because if you're talking about what's relevant in their lives, your focus is on their lives, not on what they learned at school. Um,
So
so the prepositions give us would imply a different object that we were looking for, um, or at, I should say. Yeah.
so
You could say what they were taught at school, um, was not relevant in their lives. Um,
was not relevant
yeah.
in their lives. But here we should say didn't have anything relevant to their lives. Okay,
It could be that, but anything to do with their lives is better, even better.
didn't have anything to do with their lives. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
And also instead they sources such as Hollywood movies.
Mm.
Yeah, this
Turn
is
to, I would say. Uh,
some.
okay, it has to be a verb. This is something that they're doing. It could be mustered up, but that's informal. Turn to
What does that mean,
is
mustard up?
it means like getting sheep or cattle together, like assembling a group of animals, a muster. But they could muster up resources. That is, in a kind of loose way, they could be bringing together resources, but turning to sources makes sense in this context much better than,
Mhm.
yeah.
So turn to sources means that, is this correct? Turn to, what does it mean here? Or
So instead of going and looking at what's in a museum for clues about how to do art, they've literally turned their attention to other sources. They're turning away from museums, away from traditional art
yeah.
schools, towards Hollywood movies, advertising, products, pop, comic books.
Okay,
Yeah.
turn to. Okay, great. So
Yeah.
here, turn to means, understand this one.
It means orienting yourself.
Orient
In
your
this case,
viewpoints to. Okay.
yeah, in this case, literally and figuratively. Like they were literally looking at different things, but also they're figuratively drawing on that perspective.
Mm.
Yeah, both at the same time.
So, Adam,
So
what does
it's
that
like
mean?
a resource. They drew it together. You found it and you brought it together. So it is like livestock. Like you go out into the countryside, you find the sheep and you bring them all together into the herd so that you can take them to the slaughter yard or wherever you're, or maybe if you're going to shear them, the shearing shed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's often used in this way to mean finding resources and bringing
Finding
them
research.
together.
So, so I think it's correct actually somehow. It's because
It wouldn't make I think the problem here is that those sources are right in front of them anyway in the 50s and 60s. Um, so it's actually about what they're choosing to pay attention to rather than what they've brought together.
amazing.
If they went and mustered up sources from very diverse or difficult places to find and brought them together, it might make more sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also asking, what is the meaning of reckoning on?
Yeah, it's a kind of it is a kind of um
Forecasting, yes.
it can be forecasting. It can be
Predicting
a
based on the
factor in,
data.
yeah, factor in your thinking. It's not usually about data-driven decisions.
Oh,
It's
okay. It's not
usually
data
about
driven.
informal reasoning, yeah,
Okay.
about the future.
Okay.
I'm planning based on
My
you still being supportive of me. If you like, my thinking about the future is based on knowing that I have my supervisor's support. I'm reckoning on my supervisor's continued support for this course of action.
perfect. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.